I was hoping to do one of those unboxing videos for my new book, but they've delivered the book here. Babes in the Wood is the second of the Witches of Woodville books, and after the events of the Crowfolk, life has returned to normal for Faye and her fellow witches. Then a group of children arrive. They are kinder transport children. Fleeing the Nazis, they finally have a safe haven in Woodville. But then their guardian mysteriously dies. Something is hunting the children. And only Faye Bright can save them. It's in the trees. It's coming. Run! Oh, hello everyone. How are you? Welcome to today's live launch of my new book, Babes in the Wood. Oh, and that was a little trailer that we did there. Huge thanks to Kai Newton, Emily Stay, my daughter, and Dominic Curry, who did the music, all who came together to make such a wonderful little video that seems to have no commercial value whatsoever, but I enjoyed making it anyway. So yes, welcome to everyone who's here today. Thank you so much for showing up. Here's what we're going to be doing. Just to let you know, we're going to have Mr Caimh McDonnell here any minute. He's going to be asking me questions. We're going to be asking listener questions. If you've got questions, pop them in the comments there and we'll get them answered. We're going to announce the winners of the book and chocolate giveaway, which we've been running. So we're doing that right at the end of the show. Stay tuned for that. And we've got a couple of very interesting projects, non-book related and some book related, that I'd like to talk about as well. But yeah, let's bring Mr. Caimh. Oh, he's disappeared. He's disappeared from the green room. Where's Caimh gone? Okay, I'm just going to keep talking. I'll tell you one thing I should tell you is I've oh, he's back again. There we go. Where did you go, Caimh?
I realized I couldn't comment and I said log in and then it got rid of me and I was like, oh, that's not good timing. Hello. Sorry. That's like my book launch were a big finale. Do you remember the big finale musical guest Ronan? And we were trying to get hold of him for like 5 minutes and then he just popped up with, sorry, I was just watching it. I forgot I was supposed to be on. Anyway, here's to you. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm drinking water today. And one of the reasons don't make me laugh because folks, I managed to test positive for COVID a couple of days ago, which is not what you want on the publication week of your book. It's
or any other week. Let's be fair; it's not generally recommended by anyone.
No, frankly, any other week I would have gone for it, but this week in particular, because I was supposed to be doing a big event with Ben Aronovich at Waterstones in Canterbury. That's been postponed. I was supposed to be doing an event at the Canterbury Fringe on Saturday. That's been postponed. I can tell you they've the Ben Aronovich event, which was nearly sold out, mostly due to him, let's be honest, it's been postponed to Friday, the 28th of January, which is easy to remember because it's International Lego Day. Okay, so we all observe that. And I'm doing a sort of how to get published thing at Rock, Paper, Scissors in Canterbury. That's been postponed. That was supposed to be this Saturday. It's now going to be Saturday, 27th of November, which is on, and I'm not making this up, Bavarian Cream Pie Day. Again, a day I think we should all observe with solemnity. But yes, it's. I'm just happy to be here and happy to be able to talk, because if this was yesterday or the day before, I'd have been a complete shivering wreck. But I'm here, and lovely to see so many of you here. And let's have a look. We've got Jackie here. We've got Andrew Chapman was first in the room. Andrew, we'll talk about you in a minute, Andrew, because Andrew's got a book out as well. I might as well just show it. There we go. My paperback turned up today. There we go, Andrew. He's got a book out today too. Congratulations on that, young man.
Congratulations.
Rosemary's here, Charlie's here, Sarah Cox. Sarah Cox, you did this without me. Good luck. Yeah, Sarah gave me lots of advice on the first one I did in February, and I basically kept all in a Google Doc. Sorry, Sarah. James says, hello, lads. Hello, James. How are you? Jenny from Surrey Libraries is reporting in. Thank you, Jenny. So lovely to see you. Yes, Charlie says, still waiting for mine, ordered from Coles. So if you order from Coles, you get this lovely free badge. So hopefully it will turn up in the next day or two. I am a trooper. I literally am a trooper, actually. I'm in my dad's army home guard outfit on the cheap from Amazon. But yeah, it's good to be here. Now, folks, the gentleman to my right there is Mr. Caimh McDonnell, who, if you came to the last one of these, you'll know is the extraordinary author of The Stranger Times, which is just one of my favorite reads of the year so far. Absolutely loved it. The great news is, as well, is that there's a second book on the way, isn't there, Caimh? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, it's coming out in February the 17th. This charming man. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, that's all me now. He's doing very. I mean, the man's on death's door. I mean, he's doing very well considering.
There we go.
Yeah, it's coming out on February 17th, which is very exciting because, like as Mark said with these books, it does take this kind of, you write it and then it comes out a year later, pretty much. When did you finish writing this book, Mark, Babes in the Woods?
Oh gosh, it was not long after the first one was published. So it's fairly about 7 months ago, I think.
No, right. Mine's going to end up being 14 months. But yeah, so yeah, it was quite a long time. So it'd be nice to get it out. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I actually stayed up very late, and I like my sleep. I stayed up very late finishing this a couple nights ago because I enjoyed it so much. I mean, do we need to, before we get cracking on with the questions and stuff, do we need to announce any winners, or we done all that? I'm just looking at the...
No, we're going to be doing the winners of the chocolate draw, the signed book and chocolate draw. We're going to do that at the end because if anything, that Sarah taught me is keep them hanging on to the very, very bitter end before you announce any winners. So yes, I shall definitely.
It's why they never did the paternity test on Jeremy Kyle at the start, because exactly. I mean, I'm assuming that I've never actually watched it, but do you know what? This is again nothing to do with lying. Before we start, do you know what? I haven't watched Jeremy Kyle, but I have watched the audience go in because they used to do it in Media City in Salford where we did the Sarah Millican TV show. And them and the concert orchestra had the same doorway. And it was amazing just watching that. Because, like, literally, we were in the writer's room and you're sitting there eating biscuits because that's all you do in writer's rooms. And you're just going, like, literally, a couple hundred yards away, you're going, Kyle, orchestra, Kyle. Anyway, let's crack on and talk about Babes in the Woods. We have got some listener questions, but any questions you do have, folks, do stick them in there and hopefully I will see them. Fingers crossed, but we do a couple here, but more are always welcome. And yeah, it says here the first question, which seems like more of a challenge than a question, seems a bit unfair, but on the other hand, you did write these questions, so I can't really feel too bad. Tell us about your...
are you?
Yeah. Let's see how I go. Tell us about your book in 30 words. We can all count along. Right. Thumbs and fingers. 30 words exactly.
30 exactly. No more, no less.
It says 30 words. Look, it didn't say more or less. It just says 30. So I'm holding you to that. So go.
Hang
on. All right. Emma's already. I'm going as Emma Word. Speak English, man. Here we go. Come on.
Woodville has returned to normal after the departure of the Crowfolk. A trio of Jewish children fleeing the Nazis arrive in the village. How many is that?
23. You better finish this. You better have a big finish to figure out.
Faye Bright saves the day.
2 more. Feel free.
Woohoo!
Woo and who? Okay.
That's yeah.
All right. I'm gonna give you another 30 to 50 words. So it's obviously it's the second book in the series.
Yes. With emphasis on the series, so it's not a direct sequel. So you won't be seeing the Crowfolk in this one. It's mentioned. It's a few weeks later. They're quite close together. So book 1 is in June, book 2 is in July, and book 3, when it comes, will be in August. So it's basically all over the Battle of Britain. I wanted to really focus on that period because it was so intense. The war was going on right over their heads, and so the Battle of Britain is intensifying. Invasion seems pretty imminent. People are really, really worried about it. So the war sort of comes to their doorstep. It's all been kind of cozy up till now. It's a bit rationing and what have you. But now they've got kinder transport children who are the children who fled the Nazis from Europe and came to stay, refugees who came to stay in the UK and were offered homes, and much like evacuee children were put up in the homes of complete strangers, often leaving their families behind to a terrible, terrible fate. And so we have a trio of kids and their guardian arrive in the village, and Faye feels responsibility. She saves their lives, slight spoiler, in the first couple of chapters, and feels a responsibility for them. And then the guardian is mysteriously murdered. And she tries to get to the bottom.
I'm surprised we're giving that away, because that was a big shock for me.
Okay.
It is quite early in the book, but now he's let that cat out of the bag. It is quite early in the book, so I don't feel like that's it. But that's one of the things I said to you when one of my first notes was there were several chapters this where I went, wow, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, literally, the first chapter starts off quite pleasantly. They've been on a trip out. They're all coming back. They're sitting on a bus coming back. And then a plane falls out of the sky and blows up. I mean, it's probably like, because it's sort of the first one. We always think a lot of people notes about it was the first one was a sort of lovely, quite cozy and feel World War II kind of thing. And then this time around, still cozy and feel in certain ways, but I think it's more. I would say it's more dramatic, and I mean that in a good way. That there's so much more happening, as you said, with the Battle of Britain in the skies above them and stuff. That it does. Yeah. Did you feel that yourself when you were writing it? That it did feel like there was a lot more maybe kind of urgency in the sense that all these things were right above their heads?
Absolutely. I think there's the war is getting closer and closer and closer, and there was that phony war feeling from sort of September 1939 until sort of Dunkirk, really, where people were thinking, this isn't going to happen here, we're going to be fine, blah blah blah, and then the reality of it post Dunkirk, really. So there's a mansion house in the story that's been requisitioned by the government, and there are wounded men in there still recovering from Dunkirk. So it all starts to become quite real. It all starts to, there are real consequences to this war. It's not over there, which it very much was in the First World War. It's coming here, which is starting to scare people. And so I think you have to, as jolly and as cozy as I want these books to be, I think you have a responsibility to show some of the darkness of that, some of the threat, some of the real threat in that. That's what I did. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, a good. Oh God, I've just said it's an excellent question, but I'm just going to murder the name of somebody who's put it in. Fadzi Kazambera. I can only apologize to you and your culture. Whatever I've done. No, I mean, like, luckily I've Quave as a name, so I'm used to it, but I do apologize because it's an excellent question, so it's too good so apology for that. But did you plan the whole trilogy from the get-go, or have books 2 and 3 developed organically?
That's a very interesting question, Fadzi, because what I did when I originally pitched the books to the publisher, I had a paragraph for each one. The first one was basically written. The first one was basically done. And I had a pretty good idea of how the second one would play out. But for the others, I just had a paragraph. And I certainly the third one, still fairly close to where it's ending up. The second one was going to be more of a famous five. The kids were going to be British kids and precocious kids, and there was a whole different situation. And as I started making notes, it didn't make any sense, because actually once you start doing your research, you realize all the kids were evacuated out of Kent, because it was basically the front line of the Battle of Britain, so there are very few kids about. And then I just, as you're reading, researching, you see the kinder transport thing, and you think, okay, that's an opportunity to do something really, really fascinating, and bring them into the village, to a village that's been told through propaganda Germans equals bad. And then Faye puts herself as a shield between her and the villagers, which is one of the things I love about her. Bertie jumps in next to her as well. So it's suddenly that gave it a bit of grist, and so the second one turned out to be quite different. And I think that's the thing is, this is Fadzi calls it a trilogy. It's a series, so there's no real beginning, middle, or end to this, as you would expect in a traditional trilogy. These are, as the war progresses, Faye will be presented with another challenge. She'll grow through that challenge. She'll learn something through that challenge. So I wasn't. I didn't have the usual problems that you have with a trilogy in that, oh no, I have to have these things happen or stuff in part 3 won't make any sense. I didn't have that problem. I was able just to jump in and say, actually, I can make this, not completely different, but different enough to make it a bit more, interesting, which was a real relief. So, yeah.
Yeah, just on that, before we got an excellent question from Ivan, but on that with the timeline, because I was interested with that myself, because you said it's basically month after month after month for the first 3 books. Would that be right? You think what you said, because because obviously the thing is, would you ever see this going beyond if you did loads of more of these books, and we all hope you do, could you see yourself going beyond the end of the World War II, or is it always going to be
there? As far as I have ideas, which are weird ideas that are off in the future, that I don't really want to reveal yet, but I know if we get to the end of the war, I know how it's going to end. And
well, we're all speaking English, so we all know how it's going to end. Sorry.
Yeah, well.
Spoiler alert!
It's Adolf in a bunker, and it doesn't end well. So yeah,
you can always go alternative history. That's a good twist. You do the alternative history thing where all of a sudden stuff goes differently.
Well, this is. I mean, the thing is, this is history, but it's just a couple of inches to the left of history. See, Woodville doesn't exist. I've decided that it's a couple of fields away from where I live.
Really,
which is why we can be close to the sea and be close to, other villages and what have you. So it's and the village. I'm not going to say anymore, but I do have an idea of how the war ends for the village. And how it ends for Faye, and I won't say any more than that.
Excellent. And, very good question, Ivan. There, when you're writing this sequel, was there anything you wished you hadn't done in the first book, which made it harder for you to write this one? Because that's a very good. Because that is the thing. Did you give yourself anything that you felt like you had to work around, or that you regretted? Maybe you'd like change if you could.
No, No, I know the problem you mean though, and it's something Joe Abercrombie's spoken about when I interviewed him for stuff, and it's quite a common issue. But again, it's not a trilogy in that it doesn't depend so much on what happens on the previous book to tell the story of the next book. The only thing I do regret that I found a book in a flea market 2 weeks ago, which is called A Harvest of Messerschmitts, and it's about a village called Elam, which is in Kent, and it's about 1940 in Kent, and it's got when all the bombs dropped, when all the air raids were, all of that is in there, day by day by day. I wished I'd had that 2 years ago, but then maybe I'd have just ended up getting tied into something else. But yeah, it's no, I've not had that problem. I'm quite happy with the way it's going. Ask me again in 2 books, which is when the real problems occur, and maybe I'll be different. But yeah. But I'm very aware of that thing of you just having read Pratchett and read other trilogies and what have you. I know you don't have to lay everything out at once. So the village is still kind of a bit thin. You've got you've got the main road that goes through it. You've got the pub, you've got a few shops. So there's an antique shop in this one. Wasn't mentioned in the first one, but yeah. I haven't said, if I'd said in the first book, the village has and listed all the shops or had a map, that would have really stuffed me. But because I was able to be a bit vague about it, it means I can add stuff all the time, which, I kind of knew going in. So I like to think I've been a bit of a smart ass about that. But again, ask me again in 2 books and I might be, give you a different answer.
Absolutely. Actually, speaking of that, so you brought it up because there was, as you said, the antique shop and stuff, and you had the 2 gentlemen who run the antique shop that you sort of. I thought initially you were just going to sort of have the winky nod, but you actually specifically say they are a couple at a point. But again, not giving anything away. That's a particular spoiler there. But did you have any consideration to what attitudes were like at the time to a gay couple? Because you did sort of mention it a bit.
Well, I think I say Woodville's the kind of village where you can be whoever you want to be, so long as no one talks about it. Which I think, frankly, was the prevailing attitude. I think people knew that sort of thing went on, but they would never talk about it. And obviously there were, people had to keep things secret or what have you, but you also hear stories where people lived relatively, you had the two aunts who lived together, the two uncles who lived together, and there was a kind of a knowing, people knew but never spoke about it kind of thing, so that's where our two chaps are, who are so much fun. They were so much fun to write, simply because, again, I just wanted to avoid a lot of the usual sort of gay stereotypes. So yeah, it's Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Brewer, who are the antiques collectors, but they also drive, motorcycle and sidecar combination. They're art experts, they're and this is one of the great things about having such a big village, a big cast like this, is you can bring characters like this in, and they're mentioned a couple of times in the third book so far. They weren't mentioned at all in the first book. So over time, that it would be lovely just to see the whole, you start bringing up this mosaic of different people in the village, and you can either pretend that gay people didn't exist at all, and we know they were. You often see these things on social media where people say, look, here are the letters that this soldier wrote to his boyfriend back home, that was either written in code or whatever, or just kept as a secret, as a family secret. So those things definitely went on, and so that's why I just wanted to fold a little something like that in.
Yeah, no, absolutely, works really well. Just a couple of quick questions. Tom Spins Yarns question: a book is en route, but do I need the audiobook as well? I'll fill this one. Yes, you do.
Well, the audiobook is read by Candida Gubbins, who does such a good job. She does such a good job of the Crowfolk that I now hear Faye in that voice, and Bertie as well in particular. So it's she just reads it brilliantly. And there's so many accents in this one. There's we've got German accents, and she adds in a few
Australians,
yeah, and and she added a few. There's a character, and they're just a random character who she's just made them Welsh. Good for her. Wasn't written as Welsh, but why not? Because they, there would have been Welsh soldiers there, so why not? So yeah, she's fantastic. It's adds a whole other level to the story.
Excellent. Quick question from Charlie: how about a 30-book series that follows the story of Faye and Woodville up until it becomes witch-free in the 70s? I mean, first off, how does he know that it comes witch-free in the 70s? How does Charlie know what the rest of us?
It's on the badge. It says Woodville witch-free since 1973.
This makes more sense now. That was genuinely. I was like, how's he know?
Well, I mean, Charlie, you never know. That's all I'm saying. If I get to do this long enough, you never know.
Fingers crossed. Do you have, from Lee Taylor Clark, do you have any plans to bring more of the characters of the ringing band into the stories?
They're featured briefly at the beginning of this one. Well, the thing is, bell ringing was banned during the war. It did come back in 1943, basically when a threat of invasion was essentially over, and they said, okay, you can start ringing bells again. But they're all there. They all pop in and out. They all pop in and out as sort of day player characters. So
just because I remember it from the first book, I know it being banned and stuff, but was the logic behind it, did they think that the enemy could hear it from the skies, or what was the idea?
No, they wanted to use the bells for specific purposes, for air raids or invasion.
Makes sense.
So they said, if you hear a bell, there's a reason for it. So you couldn't just have people ringing rounds or quarter peals over a weekend or whatever. That's why.
Oh, okay, excellent. SC Golan, did you have to go to sensitivity readers? I don't know if that's relating to the gay characters or the German.
No, it was the Jewish characters.
Jewish characters, of course.
Yeah, Victoria Goldsmith did a read for me, and she was fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Because I'm not Jewish, I've got Jewish friends, but I know, it's that thing where you know enough to think you know it, but you don't actually know it, which is when you have to ask for help. Is that thing of having just a little knowledge. So I did a draft, I did my due diligence, I did research, and then I gave it to Victoria and said, can you read this for me and see where I blundered in and made mistakes? And actually, she was fairly complimentary. She sent these wonderful notes just saying, okay, here's the context for this. And you just add little details off the back of that make a bit more sense. And she also did me a free line edit. She said I couldn't help myself, so bonus. So she was absolutely fantastic. So something like that where I'm out of my depth a bit.
Yeah, no, it is, because it is, as a writer, weirdly enough, I had that today where I've written a short story with an old Jewish man in it. And it's because I did the Stranger Times, I actually have written stories specifically for people I know. And there's a guy called Steve Jameson who does a comedic character called Saul Bronstein, who himself is Jewish, and he does a classic old school Jewish comedian. And I actually said to him the thing today and said, look, I've kind of used some phrases that I sort of know, but at the same time, I don't know them as well as you do. So genuinely, if you want to go in and change how he says anything, change it, because it's important that it feels real and it's not me telling you to play a stereotype, which is obviously always what you want to learn, what you want to avoid. Yeah. Excellent. Moon Buddy Creatives had his or hers dinner. Good to know. Breeds Murphy. That's a name I can say. If I didn't get that one right, you've saved me a little bit there, Breed. Thank you. How long did it take to write from the first line to the end on the final draft, and how many drafts did you write? Excellent question. So how long and how many?
Well, funny you should ask, because actually, okay. So this notebook is my Babes in the Wood notebook. Oh. That started on Sunday, 10th of May, 2020. So yeah, that's because I've been asked these questions a few times. I write these things down now because otherwise I completely forget. And the first page says there's a theme of propaganda. Have a look at the George Formby film. Faces, wounded soldiers. It's not like the newsreels. They look defeated. So there was a big theme of propaganda which never actually made it to the final draft, which is interesting. When did I finish that? 10th of February 2021. Drafts, I think 3 drafts on my own, then off to beta readers, a couple of drafts, passes after beta readers, and then it arrives at my editor, and my editor, bless her, Bethan, she complimented me the other day and said I deliver fairly clean drafts. That's probably because I've done 5 before it gets to her. Wow. So yeah, that's how that worked. So yeah, it's and this book, Babes in the Wood, and the one I'm working on at the moment, is using the notebook system, which is the first time I did that, which is where I'd essentially handwrite the notes and the scenes and then type it up, and then what gets typed up ends up so much more sticky than any other draft I've done. It really does work. So yeah, that's essentially 5 drafts. So.
Well, fair play. A couple of other things, just on the ones you had in before. I need to make sure I get these in. Josh, excellent question. Sequels can fall short of audience expectations. Any tips or tricks for doing your best to not let this happen? Brackets, I'm assuming you nailed the sequel. He did. Oh,
thank you very much. I mean, I was aware that the best film sequels, at least, were, they go deeper and darker. The Godfather 2, The Empire Strikes Back, Paddington 2, obviously.
What was that? The one I watched recently, the Marvel one, that was from the DC, from the universe with the Spider-Man thing. What's it called? Oh,
Venom.
Venom 2 is much better than Venom 1. Sorry, I've that's not relevant. Back to you.
But yeah, I didn't want to go down that road necessarily. But as I said, there is a sort of, you increase the threat. You give your characters bigger dilemmas, because in the first book, Faye barely knows what magic is and realizes she has something by the end of it. In this one, it puts her magic to the test, and by the end of it, something extraordinary happens to her, which will have consequences in book 3. Big consequences. So it's these 3 books, even though they're not a big connected trilogy, I am looking at how she copes with that increased power, how it affects people around her. I mean, to be honest, it's not about bigger ideas or bigger situations. It's about making life more difficult for your character, about testing them further and further, as you would in a single story on its own. As the story goes on, test them. They keep picking themselves up, they keep learning, they keep developing, or not. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. And certainly by the end of the 3rd book, she's really pushed to her limits. And I think with this, certainly the end of this, where you've got people being chased through the woods by something very nasty, I really want people thinking, oh crikey, are they actually going to get through this? And so you just keep cranking up the tension, you know.
And actually, because on that point, because you spoiled it earlier on, but there's a death quite early in the book. If you weren't here for the start, I'm not going to spoil it again. But Mark spoiled it. But there's a death quite early in the book. But that is genuinely, that was the moment I went, oh right, because cozy, you know, because it has the cozy label sort of attached to it. And then cozies generally, you don't expect something like that quite so much. I think, in my understanding of cozy. But when that happened, I was like, oh wow, okay, well this is not, you know, we're not in Kansas anymore. There's going to be some. There's going to be some sort of switcheroos on us here. On a couple of other things, Breed, spot on the name, Quave. Thank you very much, Breed. If I didn't get that right, as I said. Charlie asked the question, will Miss Charlotte's past come back to haunt her? I really want to see how the other main characters react to knowing just how old she is, etc. I mean, that definitely does feature in the book, doesn't it?
Yeah, it crops up a bit in this and a little bit in the third one as well. I mean, I did this quartet of short stories, the Miss Charlotte Quartet, which are all available for free. And if you pop over to the Witches of Woodville library,
look at that,
you can sign up to the newsletter and download all 4 books right now. And that chronicles Miss Charlotte's sort of secret history. Through the first, the 1592 plague of London, I think it is, right through to, you know, Folkestone in 1911. I think I'm remembering those dates off the top of my head. So, you know, it's a fairly epic journey that she goes on. And yes, she has a past, and in particular a past with the villain of this book as well, which readers might find interesting too. So that, you know, when she hears his name, she knows exactly what they're dealing with. So if you've read those short stories, you get an added little kind of frisson of excitement there. Oh,
excellent. A couple of more questions I want to make sure we get to. Andrew had the question, Halloween is one of my favorite times of the year because all things scary are fun. What is your favorite spooky movie / book to watch / read at this time of year? One of my favorites is Jack's Game by some dude I know. Shameless. Well done, Andrew.
Very good. Very good. Oh, shocking. Oh, yeah. Anyway, it's available now, folks. Yeah, there we go. I wasn't paid to do that or anything. I just want you to know that, Andrew. Wasn't paid at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, spooky stuff. Well, I mean, I love The Shining. I recently watched The Conjuring for the first time, which is kind of very cheesy, but it has that scene where they're playing that clap set thing game in, I don't know if you've seen that. Utterly terrifying. The Orphanage is a brilliant film, Spanish horror film, which is, I remember going to see that at the cinema and I was about 20 minutes into it and I was thinking, why do I do this to myself? It's absolutely terrifying. So yeah, that's definitely one worth seeing. In terms of books, I mean, the old cliche is Stephen King, who is terrific at this kind of stuff. And he's the guy I grew up with as well. I recently read James Herbert's Magic Cottage, which was pretty terrifying as well. So yeah, those are some favorites there. But The Shining is one of my go-tos. The Exorcist, having had my Irish side of the family are all Catholic. So, and I'm a complete atheist, but once a Catholic, always a Catholic. And when you see The Exorcist, it feels terribly real. So that is, and that whole thing of the guilt and the shame is it really resonates, really resonates.
Yeah, it's like that Dara Breen line. There are no ex-Catholics, just bad Catholics. It's you literally can't leave. It's a phenomenal. You can't be thrown out. It's a phenomenal club. Speaking of, have you seen Ghost Watch? You think you probably have at some point.
Oh my God, it completely traumatized me, and I fell for it. I'm such an idiot. It really gave me chills until the end, and it just got ridiculous.
Yeah, he ended up. But I genuinely, because I'm an absolute wuss. My missus loves genuinely scary horror movies. I cannot. I'm terrible at them. Ghost Watch. It was a thing that actually they had on. Was it the 80s? I think it was.
It was. Might even be early 90s.
Yeah, maybe. But my flatmate Gary had the video of it, and he put it on one night. And he's explained it to me, and he said, "Honestly, it's cheesy, be all right," because he knows I'm terrified. Because he is like literally an entire shelf with films with the word "dead" in the title. Like he's obsessed. He now has a zombie room in his house. That's absolutely true. He's got a zombie fucking room. But yeah. Anyway, this Ghost Watch, if you get a chance, basically to explain it, it's kind of like all these presenters from the 80s, late 90s, like sort of BBC.
Sarah Green, Michael Parkinson, people you trusted to tell the truth.
And they do this thing as a kind of cheesy thing, and they have this live broadcast supposedly. And I just genuinely, it was that terrifying. I went upstairs and I woke up my now wife because I was so scared. I woke her up and said, I'm really scared. And bless her, she actually didn't punch me in the face. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I know you got work in the morning, but I'm really scared. So yeah, genuinely, it's absolutely terrifying. Let me just check.
I watched it live. I remember watching it live, and I was around. I think it was when I was still living at home because I was around Mum and Dad's house. My sister was there, and we're all watching it, absolutely petrified, thinking this is because I at that point still very much an atheist, but still thinking weird shit goes on in the world, and it was really convincing because of it took all those great hallmarks from things like the Battersea Poltergeist and from Borley Rectory and things that had been chronicled and did them in such a great dramatic way. But again, I think that the thing, because it was Mike Smith, Sarah Green, Michael Parkinson, who were
Craig Charles, as somebody pointed out.
Yeah. I mean, it's like putting Simon Mayo in something, someone you trust explicitly to be credulous, and you'll believe what they say. So it's that was. I think after that, trust in the BBC may have taken a dip. So maybe that historians will look back at that as the downfall of the BBC.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there is all those things, but they never released it because it was all these things about people took it so seriously. They all these. I don't know. I got excited, but the people said, "Oh, people committed suicide and all that." I don't know if any of that's actually true, but anyway. Moving on, Steve Gowland, an excellent question here. Was there ever a danger of the research going too deep? We know how much you like this period of time. How much fun was it geeking out? Because you do. I mean, the research in this book is. I think we said it off air. Like there's things like you knew that the buses had a special thing on the window to stop the glass coming in and stuff. Just genuinely reading it, you got to go. Well, it doesn't get in the way. The details seem so well done. It's really impressive.
That was something I think I added the day before I sent it to my editor.
Really?
It's one of those things where you're, as you're doing your sort of final tidy up and polish, and you're looking and you're checking things. And I just came across an image of, I wanted to make sure I had the right bus or something. And I came across an image of a double-decker bus, and they had this netting across all the windows, but it had a diamond in it. So yeah, it was like, it was basically if a bomb went off, you wouldn't be lacerated by the glass. And it was really handy because I didn't want blood everywhere in this bus. I wanted, because all the bell ringers are on the top deck of the bus. I don't want them all cut to ribbons. Not quite yet. So, and I found this thing and I thought, that's a detail that someone will pick me up on, and two, it has to go in. So again, just fold it in as carefully as you can with that. But crucially, it played a little part in the story in that, it saves Faye from getting cut by flying glass from an explosion. But I think it's one of these things, it's not a question of going too deep, but you just need to be constantly swimming in it. So I've got a whole shelf of books over there where I'm just looking through things, and you have this radar that's on, you think that's going to be helpful, that's going to be useful, that I'm less interested in. So you just have to keep sort of swimming in this channel and picking up little things as you go and putting them in the Scrivener file and keep storing them away for later. I find local history books are absolutely brilliant because they have all those little day-to-day details. There's a book called Nella Lasts War, which is her diary. The mass observation project, and that was her diary. And it's got really boring stuff about, how she made dinner, what they did at Christmas, what they did at Halloween. And these little details, A, are really difficult to look up, and B, when you come across them, you think that's absolute gold. So yeah, that stuff. Shire books are great as well. Those little illustrated books, Shire books, they do very specific. There's a Shire book on pillboxes, which is in, so one's mentioned briefly in this one. There's one in the third one as well. So it's just weird little details like that make all the difference,
What is your favorite little detail in all the research you've had? There's always you got this. Is there any one little thing that you've not even found a use for yet, but you loved?
Oh, crikey, that's such a good question.
Do you want to know mine weirdly about World War II? I'm writing a book about. I'm writing a short story about the Manchester Blitz, which happened just Christmas Blitz just before Christmas. And there's a great fact where it's about earlier in the year because Manchester got very little bombing, and they basically thought they weren't going to get it, and then they got it for a couple of days on 21st or 22nd in 1940 maybe. But the first person casualty, like sort of, or injury from bombing in Manchester, it's absolutely true, was they went over and dropped, leaflets. They dropped them down, and a policeman was standing outside this facility, and he got basically twatted by a bag full of leaflets that the Germans dropped, and he was the first person hit. Was by a bloke just looked up and a bunch of leaflets basically saying why the Germans were friends of Manchester and they shouldn't be supporting their government. And this bloke got walloped by it because it didn't open. Genuinely the first casualty. Anyway, so that's my wonderfully weird fact. Have you thought of any now you can think of in particular that you...
No, I was too awed by your fact, and there's no way I'm going to match that anyway. While you're there, Queeve, as well, I finally put your picture in the right place. There we go. We can have a proper look now at Queeve's book cover. I had it at the back, and I moved it to the front. And the thing about your book covers as well, and this probably won't come up on the YouTube or the Facebook, but if you zoom in on that, there's so much detail on that coffin lid. There's so many little clues about the story and what happens in it.
Yeah, it's great. The designer, the cover designer, does really go to town on it. It's fantastic. Like, I'm looking at it and going, oh yeah, that. Like, I'm seeing stuff I didn't know. It's amazing. But they're great. Thank you very much. Back to you. Rachel asks, excellent question. Who has been your favorite character to write and why?
It might be Miss Charlotte, actually, because she really doesn't care. She doesn't care what people think. It was, and that's probably why I did that little quartet. And you know, she's lived the longest by several centuries. You know, there's still a lot of mystery to her. I do enjoy that. Writing Bertie, and this one was particularly fun because Bertie is finally now in the Home Guard and gets to see a bit of action. That was fun. Faye is always fun. Faye is essentially a little bit me, a little bit my daughter, a little bit of Claire, that kind of defiance and asking impertinent questions and not backing and not being happy with being fobbed off with anything. So yeah, and there's the villain in this is a Bavarian druid called Otto Kopp, who basically has the voice of Werner Herzog. And that just, you know, reading those lines out to myself was good fun.
He is proper German. He is proper Nazi bad guy in the best sense of the word. Like, you know, like nobody, say what you want, but nobody did bad guys quite like the Nazis. I mean, you know, it's like.
Well, one of the best notes I got was from Ed, my agent, our agent, because when you first see Otto, I had him in a robe, and he said, no. He said, put him in a Nazi uniform. Yeah. I was like, oh yes, of course, because it has that kind of Guillermo del Toro Hellboy thing going on as well, which I really enjoy. So yeah, he was lots of fun. So yeah.
Excellent. Oh, sorry, I missed it before. Thank you for repeating it. From Jenny, does Winter's Book of Rituals and Magic feature again?
It's always there in the background. Obviously, if you've read the first book, you'll know it's been burned. It's gone. But yes, something happens in the third book that I can't really talk about, but it's it becomes you know, pivotal in the third book.
Nice little trailer, a bit of a teaser. Let me just check if I got through. I think if I've missed any questions, folks, do repeat them, because obviously I'm listening to Mark well, so feel free. And yeah, so I mean, we should ask, obviously, then when do you reckon the next book might be out? Do we know that, Jeff? Is that
May? So yes, and if you wait,
that's fast.
Yeah. I better hurry up and finish it. So yeah, coming in May, and if you wait to the end, I'll tell you what the title is. Where?
Dun dun dun! I'm literally reading out a comment, but it actually fits perfectly. Beautifully timed, kids. Well done. Should we? It's quarter 8 already. And you've held up well. I'll be honest. I thought you might fade very fast, but God bless Dr. Showbiz holding you there.
Dr. Adrenaline, yes.
Yeah. So let me see. Have we got all the listeners? I think we've got most of the questions in, but that's good. Do we want to move on to do you want to talk about the film?
Shall we talk about the film?
I mean, of your multi-pronged attack on the world.
Shall we? Let's change the subject a little. So I'll play the trailer from the new film, Unwelcome, and then we can talk about Queeve's role in helping me put the script together. So I'll play the trailer now, and here we go.
We've been gifted this beautiful house.
We live here. Can you believe it?
Maeve wanted to keep the place in your family, Jamie.
We really appreciate the house.
Well, then you know. It's got a hole in the roof.
The Whelans, they'll do a good job. Jamie, Mayor, you just carry on with your day as if we weren't here.
There is one thing I need to show you, and it's a little bit peculiar. Every evening before sunset, she'd leave a blood offering here.
Sorry, did you say blood? For who?
For the red cats. They'll need feeding. They'll be hungry.
Can I get in my own house, please?
You own it, dear.
How many times have the English come to this country and told us what's ours is now theirs?
They need to know their place.
Tim! What did you leave out tonight?
Oh, shoot.
You can't miss a single day.
Hello? Is anyone there?
I can't be scared. Not in my own house.
Don't leave your missus alone with the lads.
Help me!
They'll need feeding. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. Every day.
We just came here for some peace.
Yeah, not very cozy, that one.
Ooh. I'll tell you what, that's got bad TripAdvisor review written all over it. But it does look fantastic, and that cast as well. I mean, there's so many great Irish actors in there.
Well, the weird thing about Niamh Cusack in the film is when I was starting out as an actor, my aunt used to write to actors and playwrights and say, my nephew is studying to be an actor, you know, blah, blah, blah. And she'd write to these people. Niamh wrote back. And she wrote back and just, the thing is, I've lost the letter, but I remember treasuring it until I moved and lost it. It's probably in a box somewhere. But Niamh actually wrote back and she said, oh, you know, keep going, don't give up kind of thing, which I did. I started writing instead. But, you know, it was just one of those wonderful things that, you know, she actually wrote back. So, and I was able to tell her that story on set as well, which was just lovely. So it's, yeah, it was, and we got Cole Meany. I'm a big Star Trek fan, you know, so Deep Space Nine, what have you. So that was a real pleasure. And also, Jamie Lee O'Donnell and Chris Wally, we've got a Derry Girl and a young offender. We're like unstoppable. And everyone was really
and you've got Hodor. You've got Hodor.
Hodor. That's the thing. That's the thing. When the trailer went live yesterday, people were more excited to see Hodor than anything else. And the thing is, I know it's a terrible cliche, but he is a gentle giant. He is the sweetest guy. He's absolutely lovely.
Yeah,
does more work.
We had him on the Sarah Millican show, so I met him. He was lovely. Yeah,
and he's actually a DJ. He gets more. You know, his main income is from being a DJ, and but I remember we sat down and we were talking about his character and going through character stuff. And if you watch the film, you'll see his character has a little pink Nintendo Game Boy. And that was his idea. And he says it's because he couldn't afford his own one. He had to get a second-hand one. And the only color he could get was pink. And his stepbrother and stepsister pick on him because of that. You know, and it was all, and we talked about the music he was listening to in his headphones, which was like Swedish death metal. You know, so he had all these great character ideas. He's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But speaking of you know, wonderful details, Caimh, we sent you the script because John was born in Belfast. My mum's side of the family are Irish, and they're from Limerick and Cork. And it's that thing of, we know, again, like with the Jewish thing, really, we know just enough to make mistakes. So we wanted to run it by, there was another writer called Lawrence Doherty. We sent it to you and to him to say, okay, where have we gone disastrously wrong? And the thing I remember, the big note I remember you telling me was they don't have fruit machines in pubs because we had someone being shoved into a fruit machine. But, what do you remember about about getting that script and
Well, generally, honestly, it was you had it really right. I said there was a discussion. I think it got taken out as well, but there was a point where one of the characters in the pub basically used a racist term, and I think it ended up got taken out because it just felt like it was, I think he said it just sort of jarred too much, even though it was accurate. And we were discussing about what term that guy would use, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not being racist," but he is. But yeah, but yeah, just sort of things like that, little things with the language like that. But generally, I think that was my biggest note was the that we didn't have they do have quiz machines of a sort, but not sort of most like the normal money ones you can win. I think you can only get your money back if I remember rightly on the Irish ones, and even then they're very, very rare. There was a story about in my adopted granddad's local pub. They tried to put one of those machines in. I think I used it somewhere, but they basically literally the people just pulled it out when the guy was away and wheeled it outside and dumped it in the car park. And like it literally did it 2 or 3 times. Then he was like, "You're all so and so," but he got rid of it because they basically didn't want one in the pub. They couldn't understand. Like it goes against the Irish sensibility of what a pub should be. That they don't really like having very loud music and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it looks fantastic though, doesn't it? I mean, God, you must be bloody excited about that, mate. That's looking amazing.
I can't wait for you guys to see it. We don't have an exact release date yet, but we're thinking sort of early next year, February, March next year-ish. So there'll be, as soon as we have a date, I'll be sort of banging the drum about that as well. So, but yeah, it's we wrapped filming it almost exactly a year ago. So we've been sitting on it a very, very long time, just waiting to get the Bond movies and all the big Marvel movies, because between end of lockdown and Christmas, you just can't move for all the big movies. But early next year, there's kind of a dearth because, you know, they haven't been making as many as they normally would. So yeah, it's going to be in a lot of screens in the UK and in the States and the rest of the world. We're still waiting. So keep watching. Might be some.
Well, yeah, I mean, fingers crossed, because you did very well just getting it made in the time, because you were, but it was properly in lockdown. You were doing it.
We were in that lockdown sandwich, you know, between one lockdown and the other. We made it. We finished, and then the new lockdown came in. So we were. Well,
Ivan's question here is an excellent one, because for anyone who doesn't know, where was it filmed, and was it filmed in Ireland?
We wanted to, but of course COVID put paid to that. So we filmed it in Bovingdon in Hertfordshire, which is weirdly where the woods were used for a lot of old Hammer horror movies. So in some ways it was great, and there's some wonderful shots of Hannah's character running through the woods there that are straight out of a classic Hammer film. And so what they did, they constructed this giant studio that the sort of people who make stages for U2 and Pink Floyd and the Rolling Stones, they made this stage almost as big as the 007 stage. They built the drive, the house, the garden, and the wall in it. Wow. And it's just a sort of whole house that you could walk in and go up and walk around and climb on the roof and do all sorts of stuff just to start. And the thing is as well, I was walking through it, and I remember, you know, going to Ireland, staying at my nan's house when I was a kid, even things like the light switches. It's like they had Irish light switches, you know, slightly different ones to the ones you find in the UK. And so it was little things like that. I thought, you know, details.
Did they have the picture of the Pope and John F. Kennedy on top of because that's the thing, the Pope and John F. Kennedy with the things on top of the mantelpiece? And literally, bizarrely, people don't believe it, it's Bill Clinton. So being popular around the world, Bill Clinton is beloved in Southern Ireland. I mean, not always up north, but they love him. And the Clintons were massive. Oh my God, they were. I remember I actually passed Hillary Clinton on her walkabout because every American politician has to come to Dublin and do the thing, and she can't have the pint of Guinness. She used to have an Irish coffee, ludicrous photo shoot they do. But I remember asking it myself and my wife walking by. I went, "So it's Hillary Clinton?" It's like, "Oh, is Bill with her?" It's like, "Oh, no, he's not." It's like, "Oh, where's Bill?" It's like, "I've no idea. I'm guessing she doesn't know either." Peter says, "How big a role?" Because did you know you were going to be in the trailer, by the way, or did they put that in as a sort of?
Everyone, no one is more surprised than me or the director. John, the director, is going, "How on earth did the writer end up in the trailer?" And again, I'm looking at thinking, because it's cut by there's a company called the Silk Factory who cut lots of trailers, do Game of Thrones and Walking Dead and stuff like that, and they cut the trailer for this. So obviously they looked at my pasty, flabby face and said, that'll get bums on seats. So yeah, I'm slightly baffled. I obviously, because it's not only that's me, then it's Claire, my wife behind me, and my son, because the whole family are in the pub scenes. We managed to wangle our way into the pub scenes. So yeah, bizarre. Not sure why, but I'll be giving what we want to happen.
Sorry, I was going to say, you go ahead.
What Claire and I want to happen is to be in a cinema when the trailer is shown, and then turn round to the people behind us at the exact moment and freak them out. But I don't know the odds of that happening. But yeah,
I was going to say, if it's in Irish cinema, I genuinely want to go in and watch it in Irish cinema just so I could just shout at the right moment, going, "That prick's English."
Well, here's the thing. John, being Irish, didn't want any non-Irish actors. Which is, it's not like you, because you've seen. You'd have seen terrible film. There was that one recently with Christopher Walken doing an Irish accent. It was just terrible.
And your man from the north, who didn't even sound Irish, is like, what's going on with? You're actually from, with the guy from 50 Shades of Awful.
Yeah. So John was very insistent that we only hire Irish actors to play the Irish parts, which we did. And funny enough, Jamie Lee, who is from Northern Ireland. She worked really closely with Chris Wally to make sure they both had the same accent. They worked really, really hard, and she sounds great. But yeah, I did have a line in that pub scene. I did have a line, which was, "I see you in church," but that got cut. It got cut. Yeah.
I'm not having it.
Yeah.
Staying over here, taking our jobs. Is Bill Withers? It's Withers.
Lovely day.
Okay. I'm genuinely confused by that question, but thank you for Unruly Cats. Something else I was going to ask. But I do, because that's the thing, though, because everyone says, Irish actors. And I had that with my thing. People go, and I was like, Irish actors. And then I thought, well, hang on, like Colin Meaney's in Con Air. He's not Irish. He's not Irish in that. And like, as soon as you sort of go, so am I saying that Saoirse Ronan has to be Irish and everything? And you go, well, no, obviously she's an actress. Then you go, you can't really have it both ways there.
Yeah, but every drama school in the world teaches you to do American accents, and they'll teach you to do a New York accent, California, Southern, whatever, because that's where movies are made. Hardly any drama school in the world will teach you to do an Irish accent.
Yeah, this is true, yeah.
Because the Irish Gaelic accents are really tough to get right, really, really tough to get right. Scots and Gaelic and Welsh and what have you. So I think we're all taught how to do American and standard RP and English and stuff like that. But once you drift away from that, then it starts getting weird. So
true. Couple of things we should mention before I forgot. There was the last bit to the question from Steve. Any chance of a film of the books? A BBC series would be brilliant. Testify.
I've been meaning to call the BBC about making these into film. I just don't get around to it. Of course, I'd love that. I don't know.
It's great when people say that to you as an author, isn't it? You go, you should get these into films. It's like, that's a good idea. I'd love to have a bigger house.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it'll only happen if we sell loads of them, Steve. So please tell your friends and tell your friends of friends and tell your friends of friends and friends, because it's the sales makes all the difference, frankly. So
and these are cracking books, so fingers crossed. It's one of these things when they catch on. I mean, even you got that review in the Irish Independent for the first one, which is great. It came out of nowhere, which was a really strong review, and it just showed if they get out. It's one of those things where it's with any book. There's a lot of people who are authors here, and it really is. It's just getting it in front of the right people and hoping for the best.
I mean, that came months after publication. It was just so strange, really, really weird. They obviously loved it and wanted to write about it, which is just fantastic. So I'm all up for that. I mean, the first book came out during lockdown when, no one could go to bookshops, and it's very much a bookshop book. And then the second one has come out when bookshops are open, but I'm self-isolating and can't go to bookshops. So I'm fine about that.
No, it is. I share your frustrations, as you well know. So one thing we should know, Everyday Kindness is a brilliant short story collection. I'm genuinely excited to read this because you've got one in it. I've got one in it. I mean, the standard dips a bit. They let Ian Sainsbury have a go at one point, but don't be put off. There's some very big name authors in there. It's edited by the wonderful LJ Ross. All
proceeds going to shelter.
Proceeds go to shelter. Thank you, the wonderful charity. So it's a cracking. There's a really good list of authors in there, and
it
was a lot of fun.
55 authors. 55.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at it. That's got to be pretty bloody good value, just to be judging by the size of the thing.
And what's your story in that, Queeve? Is it a Stranger Time story?
Yeah, it's a Stranger Time story where, story. Yeah, it's a Stranger Time story where, because it's all supposed to be about people being kind. And mine is technically about that, but there's also a floating jar of wee. Pretty sure I'm letting the side down. Mine is basically about a QAnon type incel guy and somebody coming in and kicking his door in and getting him to go outside. It's basically what it's about. But yeah, what's yours? Because yours is Witches of Woodville.
It's a Woodville one, yeah, and it's set between books 1 and 2, and it's called Two Chickens for Laura Longarms, and it's about a spirit in the wood that can grant wishes or show you visions of things that you really want to see. And it's that thing of I latched onto the idea of kindness, that it's not a finite resource. It's not just something you can give to this person or that person. We've all got plenty to go around, you know. So yeah, and it's a lovely project put together by LJ Ross, who's a fantastic author. And yeah, so go grab it. It's out in just a couple of weeks. So yeah, pre-order now.
We should probably, it's 8 o'clock. Do you want to start doing the wrap up of things? I think we've done all the questions. Anything, last call. I'll give you 60 seconds, folks. I'll fill in I'll give my brief. I think genuinely, by the way, I can honestly say I properly love this book. I honestly stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning, and that's the latest I stayed up till for a long time. Genuinely, just because I really wanted to finish it. It goes along at a cracking pace, and there's so much more. I think what's great is, I think, between the first and the second book, when you've already established the world in the first one, you can just go for it in the second one.
Yeah, that's the big advantage. Yeah,
and it allows you to sort of swerve, because once you've set up expectations. I think that was the thing about what I was saying about there was a lot of unexpected twists and turns. It's because you've set up expectations that you can then do that in the second book, which was great. I genuinely, absolutely loved it. I think congratulations to you. It's a proper achievement, mate. Very well done indeed.
Thank you very much. Well, let's do the signed book and chocolate giveaway, which closed this afternoon, and I've got all the name. Basically, just had to retweet a tweet of mine, and it goes into the hat. And 5 lucky winners and get a signed, dedicated book and a bar of chocolate. So I've basically got I've got a list of names here and a random number generator. So we're going to do the first one now. Number 85. Number 85. Who's that?
Fat lady, the bloke in the hat. 85.
Lou Yardley. Congratulations to you, Lou Yardley. That's at Lou Yardley. Okay, next number is 24. Number 24. Go to the list of names.
Duck and I'm sorry, I don't know how bingo works. Sorry, I should shut up. Sorry, keep going.
Joy Kluver, at Joy Kluver. Congratulations to you, Joy. Next number. Number 1. Oh, fiddle, surely not. That is at Bychaz. And I think she's a bestseller Experiment Academy member. That's Wendy, I think. So congratulations. So yes, let's generate how many is that? That's 3. So this will be number 4. Number 62. Silk Avril. Oh, lovely. I know she tweeted this lots and lots of times. So well done, Avril. Thanks for that. And final number 64. Just a couple of speaking of Welsh, this is at Book Fairy Cymru. Right.
Oh, we have one of our winners in. Well, congratulations to Wendy.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations to you all. I will put them in the post. I can't go out, but I think I can get them picked up from my house. And I will sort of, I'll wear gloves or whatever.
I was going to say, you might need to get that to something white.
Yeah. So don't worry, it's perfectly safe.
God, this is ground zero. Oh, he's going to be patient X. Oh, Jesus.
But look, if you didn't win this time, fret not, because I'm announcing a whole new book and chocolate giveaway, which is going to run from now until the end of November. Yes, you heard it. Basically, this one's even easier. All you have to do is just sign up to my newsletter. And my newsletter is at witchesofwoodville.com/library, which is basically the Woodville Village Library. So you can get all those short stories. You can get those Miss Charlotte short stories. There's a Mrs. Teach short story. All sorts of free stuff there and extra stuff. And there's recipes as well. There's Spotted Dick in this book. So Claire and I were talking just today about doing a Spotted Dick recipe. So jump along to that. Sign up if you've already signed up to my newsletter, you're automatically entered. But if you haven't, sign up now, and you too can win that. And this is good chocolate. This is good stuff. And a signed guide and some book. So yeah, there we go. Queeve, a huge thank you to you and to Elaine, Wonder Wife, for helping.
Why is she getting? She's in the wrap up thing here. It says thank Queeve and Elaine. What's she done?
She put this in the diary.
That's
Okay,
true,
she
that's
put
true.
this in the diary.
You know, sure,
and,
I turned up properly. Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, exactly. And she sent me that cover image, which I put at the back. But
And
then
she's also corralled the 2 dogs upstairs. So to be fair, she's done a
exactly,
great
exactly. And to Claire as well, who's away watching something in another room. She didn't want to come in here because we'd both been coughing like a couple of old deers. So yeah, it's all cool. All cool. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for turning up. This hour has flown by. I'm about to lose my voice. But yeah.
Excellent Christmas present.
Lovely. Goodbye to you all.
What's the name of book 3? You can't keep trailing shit and not tell people.
That's true. That's very true.
Well done, Jenny. One of us didn't spot that, and you did, thank God.
Thanks, Jenny. Yes. Well, the original title, if you the working title was Skyclad, which was is a witchcraft term that means to perform a ritual naked. Because the idea is that if you do these naked, your energies go into, and obviously some bloke thought this up. So our Witches of Woodville not having anything to do with it. But that, my editor Bethan said, and fair enough, she said it sounds like a Bond movie.
That's exactly what I was literally going to go, Skyclad.
Yeah, so we're not going with that. But it is based on a real incident. In the Second World War, there was a warlock called Gerald Gardner, who this happened in the New Forest. He got a bunch of witches to do a cone of power ritual, and they danced naked around this pyre and sent energy, magical energy, across the water to Hitler, saying, "Do not invade. You cannot cross the water. You cannot cross the water." So we're going to have a similar character doing something on the cliffs at Dover. And of course, our witches are not having any of that nudity. But there's also something else going on in the village, and it's going on in a barn on Larry Dell's farm, who's one of the farmers. He's the farmer with the big dent in his head. And he names his barns after former lovers. So this is the title of book 3 is The Ghost of Ivy Barn. So there we are. It's a bit of a ghost story as well. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So some tasteful nudity as well as everything else. It sounds fantastic. I can't wait to read it. Right, well, thank you for having me. It's been lovely. And thank you all for coming along, folks.
See you next time. Until then, happy reading. Bye.
Bye. Buy the book. Buy the goddamn book.